Hey friends, it seems like you may not have been present for our class discussion this week, or you may need a little reminder of what our extra credit problem was about. Have no fear, I am here to do just that. So here we go. We started off our problem, if you remember, with a circle on the board, and we talked about the fact that this thing here, anytime I take one point on the circle and draw a segment to another point on the circle, I call that a chord. So the problem is called circles and chords. And here's how it works. We take our circle that we're going to draw a bunch of chords on, and we're going to create a table. And our table has number of chords and the maximum number of spaces created by said chords. Let's see how it works. So basically, if I have no chords at all, none, I have one big space in my circle. So the maximum number of spaces created is 1. If I then say, let me have one chord, boom, the maximum number of spaces that I can create with that one chord is 2 spaces. And if I throw another chord in there, maximum number of spaces that I can create with 2 chords is 4. I do want you to notice that I could have done this. That's a chord, but I've only made 3 spaces, which is not the maximum number of spaces. You with me? All right. So with 2 chords, we can have a maximum of 4 spaces. With 3 chords, I like students at this point to try to figure out how to figure this piece. So what some students do is draw a line right here and say 6 spaces clearly. And then we think about it and then we realize, no, not so true. If I drew a chord here, I actually create more spaces. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I get 7 spaces. And then we continue on drawing lines, trying to figure out how we can get the maximum number of spaces. And I think if I draw this fourth one correctly, I can get 11. Let me see if I did that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I did it. And basically, our question this week says or asks, how many chords, if I have 100 chords, what's the maximum number of spaces I'll get? So I call this a 5-point extra problem. 5 points, extra points, 5 of them, you got them. However, if you can answer this question for n, then you can get 20 points. So what does that mean? Let me go back and talk a little bit about this, and I'll show you what I mean. What students noticed in class is that to get to the next number, all you had to do is add the previous number of spaces to the number of chords. So 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 plus 4 is 16. And therefore, if we had 5 chords, you would predict from that logic that we'd have 16 spaces. And you're correct if that's what you got. And so honestly, you can do 100. You can go ahead and continue finding all of those chords for these spaces. So that's not a hard problem. It'll take a little bit of work. You'll have a pretty long table. Maybe you'll find a neat way to do it, neat way to come up with the answer. By the way, the answer is not 116, because notice if I take 16 and 100, I could say it's 116, but notice that all of these numbers prior are consecutive, right? And if I were to jump from 5 to 100, that would be too big of a jump, and it would not follow the pattern. If that needs some clarity, you can let me know. Okay, so the problem that we have is basically you can find 100 or you can find n. So what does that mean? That means I want you to find a rule that does not require me to use the previous number of spaces with chords to get the answer. Meaning, I want you to be able to say, oh, just take 7, take 3. Let's say I'm looking for this 7. I want to find out what's the maximum number of spaces I have with 3 chords. What I want you to do with n is to be able to say, take whatever number that is, multiply it by this, add this, divide this, square it, do whatever, and then you get the answer. So I want you to independently create a rule. This is a little tricky, I'll admit, where I can just use n in an equation to get the corresponding number of spaces. Are you guys with me? If you need more clarity on this one, let me know and I will happily talk to you about it. But this is this week's challenge. Take care.